Are we in the midst of a religious revival in America? Hi, my name is Wes Ellis. I'm the pastor of First Congregational Church of Ramona in the United Church of Christ. And I'm not an expert on this. In fact, I'm not sure who is. You have to ask sociologists, of course, to talk about measurements in religiosity among people if we're going to measure revival according to how many people go to church or are affiliated with specific religious perspectives. It really does beg the question, what is revival and who's going to measure that when faith itself is a thing that doesn't really easily get measured? What I can say is that there's some anecdotal evidence that in some pockets, in some places, there is some resurgence of Gen Z people returning to churches or probably going to church, as many, many more Gen Z people have been raised without religion than previous generations. But in general, there's no data to support that there's a widespread cultural revival happening that suggests anything other than what the data has shown for a long time now. And that is that there's a widespread decline in religiosity in America, a widespread decline in people's affirmation of historical religious claims, including the existence of God, belief in the afterlife, things like that. I want to say that it should kind of be neither here nor there to most Christians, whether or not more people are coming to church or there's an increase in religiosity. Increasing religiosity in America is not what Christians are called to do. What Christians are called to do is to love one another and to make disciples. We call it the Great Command and the Great Commission. The Great Command is to love the world. Christians are called to love people, to love God and love others. And the Great Command is to make disciples. Now, making disciples has some baggage because we tend to assume that that means conversion, converting people to our religious persuasion. But making disciples means inviting people into the way of Jesus Christ, which is less about doctrinal precision and more about how we live and inviting more and more people to be part of that great command movement of loving God and loving others. So, as a Christian, my job has never been to incite revival in the sociological sense of the term, to instill deeper or more religious persuasion or religious affiliation or religiosity. My job is to love the world and to invite people to join me in loving the world. So if you're doing that, if your church is doing that, I would measure your success according to that and say, hey, we're doing a pretty good job, whether or not your numbers are growing or increasing. I would just caution anyone from getting too hung up, too worried about how many butts are in the pews on a Sunday morning, and think more deeply about the way of life that your church is inviting people into. Is your church a blessing to your community? Is your church loving each other? Is your church serving the work of mercy and justice? Is your church following Jesus? If you are, then you're doing it right. And it doesn't really matter whether or not there's religious revival in America.